Hey everyone. In this video, I want to talk about how shame is rarely ever useful. Now, I'm not saying that it doesn't ever hold some significance and importance in our lives, but for the vast majority of the time, shame is incredibly unhelpful and even unwarranted. Here's the thing about shame. Quite often, the shame that we have is something we're conditioned to have while we're growing up by society and primarily religion. I mean, we all know probably the biggest shame that most people have is surrounding sex, and that's because of religion. Like, there are religious reasons. Who knows exactly why? Maybe it could have been like population control back when it was made. I don't exactly know, but there are implications there that for whatever reason, a lot of us have been raised to have shame surrounding sex and to view it as this really bad, illicit act. And yeah, that's the way many of us were raised, and for that reason, a lot of us have shame surrounding sex. But when you really get down to it, it's incredibly unhelpful and even unwarranted because of the fact of how normal that is. Like, that's how we all exist, right? Like, you wouldn't be here if, I'm not trying to implant that picture in your mind, but you wouldn't be here if your parents didn't engage in that. None of us would be here. Human societies wouldn't survive without sex. That's how our whole species continues to exist. So right there and then, you kind of realize, like, there's no point in having shame surrounding this. It's the most natural thing on the planet because it's how everything is in existence on this planet. Everything survives because of procreating. Even the trees surrounding me, obviously they do it in a very different way than us human beings, but everything on the planet engages in that in some form, and that's how everything is able to continue existing for millennia. So there's no real reason to feel any shame surrounding that. Like, even if you have some rather interesting kinks and that sort of thing, like, there's no reason to have shame surrounding it at all. It's supernatural. And yet we all get so tripped up over it because of that childhood upbringing where we were told all those BS and lies from the religious institutions or society. And quite often religion kind of invades society, and we can create shame in societies that even aren't really religious societies, but it still exists there. So yeah, there you go. But even going beyond sex, a lot of people feel shame over things that are just kind of pointless, like feeling shame when you have a bowl of ice cream, or when you have 2 drinks when you're out with friends, or when you eat an entire pizza on your own, things like that. Like, why should we feel shamed over that? There isn't, yet again, really any reason for it. It's unwarranted. We're all human beings. Like, we all have flaws. We're all imperfect. That's part of being human. So we're all naturally going to have moments where we give into vices, or where our emotions just get the best of us, or maybe our emotions are so strong that we don't know a better way of dealing with them than diving into a bowl of ice cream, or having a beer, or smoking a joint, or whatever it may be. Like, there's no reason to feel shame in engaging in those things. But here's the important distinction. You don't want to, of course, make those things habits. Like, you don't want to be having a bowl of ice cream every single night. Like, you don't want to be smoking a joint all throughout the day for many days in a row. You don't want to be having 2 drinks every single day, because at some point it will start to affect your health. But you can do those things every now and then, and you shouldn't feel any shame over them, or even shame surrounding missing a day of working out. Like, why? If you're doing it most of the time, if you're still working out a lot throughout the entire month as a whole, if you miss a day here and there, like, there's no point in beating yourself up over it or feeling ashamed over it. We just are often way too hard on ourselves for no frickin' reason, because it doesn't help us out. Like, we need to give ourselves permission to just be human, to be imperfect, to have those flaws. But of course, like I said, you just can't make these things habits. If you're gonna skip a day at the gym, just skip one day. Don't skip an entire week and then a month, and then suddenly you haven't been going to the gym for 3 months in a row. That's not good. And likewise, just having 1 bowl of ice cream, that's fine. But if you have an entire gallon of ice cream in one sitting, like, that's not good. Now you're starting to engage in rather unhelpful and unhealthy activities. Here's the distinction. This is what I would say. It's okay to feel shame surrounding things that are prolonged and are unhealthy and unhelpful for your life in the long run. For instance, having ice cream every single day probably not good for your health. If you start feeling ashamed over it, that's probably warranted, because the more you continue doing that, you're going to start gaining weight, and then with that, you'll become unhealthy and problems will arise. So that's not good. Same thing going for if you smoke joints too much. Yeah, if you do that all the time, it's going to kill your motivation and your ambition. You're going to become too chill, which is not a good thing either. Or if you drink too much, yet again, it's going to affect your health, it's going to affect your motivation, it could affect your relationships. So everything in moderation is probably okay to some extent. There's no point in feeling shame over that. But once you dive too far into things, let's bring back the example of sex. Yeah, if you're having a lot of sex with random partners that you're never going to see again, and you're doing this all the time, and you're doing it to like fill a validation void within you that maybe your parents didn't give you enough love growing up, or maybe your parents, you didn't have both of them around, whatever it may be, that's unhealthy, that's unhelpful, that's not good. So things like that, I would say the shame is actually a powerful tool to motivate you to change, to stop living in those ways that are unhealthy and unhelpful. But the vast majority of the time, shame doesn't really help us. Like if it's just you having a bowl of ice cream once a week or something like that, like there's no point in feeling ashamed over that. Like that's fine. And same thing with eating an entire pizza in one sitting. If you do that like once a month, there's no harm in it. So everything that you do in moderation is probably fine. If you have like a one-night stand with someone that you had a great connection with, and it was a type of thing where if you were able to continue seeing them, you would have loved to, but somehow you can't, I wouldn't say you should have any shame at all surrounding that one-night stand. So yeah, guys, it's very nuanced thing. Like shame can be a powerful thing, but probably like over 90% of the time, it just is unhelpful. It's unwarranted. It's us being way too freaking hard on ourselves for no real reason. So you should only listen to shame when it is one of those situations where you're being unhealthy and unhelpful, and you're holding yourself back because you're not able to rise above insecurities, or you have like some hole that you're trying to fill using food like desserts, or other people with having one-night stands, or using vices. Yeah, those are unhealthy and unhelpful habits. But anything that falls short of that, I don't see any reason for you to get tripped up over shame. Just remind yourself, it's okay to be human. Like, really, it truly is. We're not going to always be having incredible control over our emotions. I mean, even I don't. Like, I make these videos, right, and I talk about the importance of managing your emotions well, which only, of course, means managing your reaction to your emotions, because you can't stop yourself from feeling them. But even I trip up from time to time. There are times where maybe I didn't get enough sleep and I'm tired, and therefore my patience is worn a little thin. And yeah, I'll be able to get worked up rather quicker than usual. Or there'll be times where I'm just feeling kind of down and I don't have any, emotional strength left in my reserves to be able to withhold the urge of eating a bowl of ice cream. So sometimes I'll have that bowl of ice cream, but I don't shame myself for it. I understand that I'm human. I don't expect perfection in myself. Neither should you. We're all human. We're all imperfect. We all have flaws, and it's okay to just occasionally do those things, to have a bowl of ice cream, to eat an entire pizza, to have a one-night stand with someone you really like, or to smoke a joint, have a beer, whatever it may be. That's fine, so long as you don't make it a prolonged habit that then starts impeding on your own livelihood and affecting you in an unhealthy and unhelpful way. But anyway, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about in this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed this one. If you like content like this, be sure to subscribe for more. Otherwise, the easiest way you can help me out is just to throw a like and a comment on the video. Let me know your thoughts, and I will see you guys in the next one. Arrivederci!